Someone who carries a lot of pain in their heart can create a lot of toxic in their life. So when we are not ready to transform our pain into power yet, at least don't let our pain transform into poison. Hi beautiful people, welcome back to my channel Heal with Silvia. For those who are new here, my name is Silvia. I'm an emotion healer and I work with my clients to heal their emotional pain from the past hidden in their subconsciousness. Well, I created this channel to specifically talk about emotional pain and how you can heal them in the right way so that you can be liberated from it. After all, even though pain is necessary, but the suffering is optional. So if you're in some kind of emotional pain journey right now, feel free to lean onto this channel. I hope my videos and this community will be able to give you some love, light, and inspiration. So how does emotional pain turn into poison? And exactly what kind of poisons are we talking about here? Well, when our emotional pain is hurting, it can spread into all kinds of poison, and that includes physical illness, mental wellness. But what I want to focus on in this episode is a poison that tops over these two because it is very widespread nowadays, and that is toxic behaviors. Well, I'm sure you have encountered toxic people in your life, and once you have met them, you will want to stay away from them because you had tasted their capability in making you feel so miserable for the rest of the day and draining away all of your energy to the last drop. But has it ever come across your mind, how do these people become toxic in the first place? And why do they carry so much negativity in them? And the million-dollar question here is it possible that we ourselves can turn toxic just like them? If yes, why? Well, the answer to all of these questions is the long-term suppression of emotional pain. You know, the emotional pain that is trapped within us can turn us toxic, turn us ugly, and even turn us away from people. Our pain expresses itself through the negative side of us, and that is how people start finding us so full of negativity and draining. So exactly what kind of emotional pain can turn us so venomous? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 of the most toxic emotional pain that many of us may carry and the key toxic behaviors that they can produce in our life. I hope that by bringing awareness to some of these toxic emotions, that while we are all obsessed about learning how to stay away from toxic people, we actually pay more attention to learn the underlying cause of becoming toxic so that we don't fall prey to toxic behaviors ourselves. And I'm also going to leave you with 2 healing tips to keep yourself safe from toxic emotions from manifesting in your life. And at the end of the video, if you're keen to deep dive into what we have discussed today, feel free to download the workbook that I had specially prepared for you. There is also a little quiz inside to help you find out if you are becoming toxic. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell to stay connected with me and this community. But before I go further, I do want to emphasize that the emotional pain, air quotes, I talk about in my videos are those that are hidden in our subconsciousness. They are much more deeper than the superficial feelings that we go through every day. Emotional pain are usually triggered by major life events that impacted us right through our heart, such as a crisis, failure, trauma, or death. Another major contributor to our emotional pain could be our unpleasant childhood. Well, in fact, this is the #1 emotional wound that I always uncover in all of my therapy sessions. Well, whatever pain we carry from our childhood always manifests into our adult life adversities. The child shadow is one topic that I spend a lot of time studying. If you'd like me to create a video to talk more about it, let me know in the comments below, okay? So if someone harbors an emotional pain from the past and fail to heal it in the present, this emotional pain is what will turn us toxic. Alright, are you ready to find out now? Number one is the emotional pain of insecurity. Well, insecurity is the feeling of fear that you are not safe. You feel threatened and worried about your survival, your possessions, your achievements. And insecurity also brings forward a deep sense of vulnerability, as if you have been stripped to the bone and left exposed in the wild open for everyone to judge and harm you. Well, the most common pain event that lead to this emotional wound of insecurity usually stems from a childhood or younger adult days. If you grow up in a family environment that you don't feel safe, this fear of being in danger or trouble becomes deeply rooted in your subconsciousness. Or if you grow up in a family situation where your parents have to constantly worry about putting food on the table, this fear of lack and not having enough can also stay in your belief system. So what kind of toxic behavior does the emotion of insecurity produce? Well, number one, we tend to overprotect ourselves. Well, there is nothing negative about wanting to protect oneself, but when this desire is driven by fear instead of love, that is where we start displaying toxic behaviors. And that includes constantly being defensive against others, unwilling to listen, and are easily offended. And the reason is because we have this subconscious belief that the world wants to harm us, and our instinctive reaction is to fight them off. So when we are always in such a fearful survival mode to keep ourselves safe, sometimes we may wrongfully hurt or push away the people who are just trying to help us and care for us. That's how eventually others may find it difficult to deal with our constant fighting mode and stay away for good. Now, number two, all we do is worry. Well, have you come across someone who always say, but I'm worried if, there is always something to worry about no matter what you tell them. And we see this very often in a workplace setting where there will always be someone in that meeting room who will constantly raise their concerns and put down any idea that is presented without giving any constructive alternatives. Well, that behavior is the mirror of insecurity. Insecurity breeds doubt and disbelief that anything good can come up. So even if it is really something good happening, they will try to deny it. And sometimes we may even take it to the extreme to make worrying a hobby. I'm not sure if you noticed in your family, but in my impression, I always remember how my old grandmother will sit in the couch all day to do nothing but worry. She'll be worried about my grandfather, my father, the weather, the cooking, the neighbors, money, health, and the list just goes on and on. I used to feel so annoyed and impatient whenever she began her ranting. But now I realize that it was actually her emotional pain of insecurity speaking. So you can do a quick self-reflection now. Whenever you are having a conversation with someone, whether it's at work, at home, or with your friends, how much of the conversations are around what you worry? And how often do you respond with a worry in your mind? Well, if it's more than half of the time, my beautiful people, this might be a red flag that something toxic might be brewing within you. Well, click on the like button now to let me know you will stop worrying from now on and have more positivity in your conversations. Okay, now let's move up to number 2 emotional pain that can turn us really toxic. Well, this emotional pain looks really harmless, but you will be surprised about the destructive power behind it. Well, number 2 is the emotional pain of unworthiness. Unworthiness is when you despise yourself and feel that you are just not good enough. You deem yourself below the standard of what the society and everyone else define as great or successful. You are unable to recognize or find your self-worth. You feel inferior, you feel undeserving. And you're so sad that the good things in life are just so out of your reach because they are meant only for the great people. So the tricky thing about this emotional pain is the huge dichotomy of sentiments. On one hand, you feel really sad and depressed about your shortcomings and disadvantage. But on the other hand, you're really upset and frustrated about how you're being judged or even born unfairly. Now, these mixed sentiments can really tear us apart, making us feel really despair and helpless about our life. So what kind of pain events can inflict such a disempowering emotional wound on us? Well, one thing I had observed through my therapy experiences is that sense of unworthiness usually stems from having authoritarian parents. If you have been constantly told from young that you are not good enough and you're always being compared to someone better, it can really start making you believe that it is true. And the more extreme example is an abusive childhood. When a child is being mistreated by their own parents, the most instinctive reason they can think of is not how evil their parents are, but their own unworthiness. Another type of pain event that often triggers the emotional pain of unworthiness is when you experienced a failure in your love relationship, a marriage, or even career where you felt being abandoned because you are not good enough. When we carry this subconscious emotional wound within us, they can eventually turn into toxic behaviors that make us really negative. And the first type of behavior is self-pity. When we feel unworthy, we just can't stop feeling sorry and pitiful on ourselves. So we begin to tell the people around us our sad stories. When someone compliments us, we put them down and insist that no, we are not good at all. The reason why such dialogues can slowly become toxic or even annoying is when the intention behind becomes hypocritical. It's like a reverse psychology that we want to achieve. When you say you're not good, you sort of wanted the kind soul to tell you otherwise, and that sort of make you feel good. And you begin to beg for more of that kind of sympathetic responses. And in other instances, we may crave for the person to actually agree with our sad story and sympathize us. In a way, it soothes the wound to hear someone agree that we are really a poor thing. Well, I had seen this kind of toxic behavior frequently in a love relationship, but when self-pity gets too much, it really drains the partner, leading to distancing. Now, the second type of toxic behavior generated from the emotional pain of unworthiness is self-assertion. When we suffer from unworthiness, instead of wallowing in self-pity, some of us can take the other extreme route to push ourselves so hard in order to prove ourselves. This behavior is more dangerous than self-pity because sometimes we may mistook this behavior as a good virtue, not realizing that it is actually also a form of toxic behavior. Now, the key distinction between a healthy and a toxic self-assertion is love. When we are doing something that we are genuinely passionate about, we may work very hard and have deep dedication to do our best. But when we are forcing ourselves to work very hard because we believe that if we slack, we are bad, well, this becomes toxic. And what happens next in subconsciousness is that while we are driven by our own emotional pain of unworthiness to work hard to prove ourselves, we also unintentionally demand the same level of efforts or perfection from others. Well, we can see this quite often in the workplace too, where someone gets really frustrated when they don't see others working exactly the same standard as their speed, their way, and their intensity. This self-inflicted pressure can also turn into pressure inflicted onto others. And that is another form of toxic behavior where people can start feeling suffocated and out of breath around this person. So if you suspect that there is always this sense of unworthiness hidden within you, do be careful of the two toxic behaviors that I mentioned above, self-pity and self-assertion. Well, click on the like button to shout out your positive affirmation to change for good, okay? Now, that brings us to the third and final emotional pain that can turn us into a toxic person. This is probably one of the most destructive emotions that can totally break us down. And it is the emotional pain of betrayal. While betrayal is probably one of the worst kind of emotions to experience and to keep in our heart, betrayal is especially painful and shocking to someone who values trust tremendously in their natural life values. When trust is broken by someone close, it is as if one pillar is broken and the roof is now forever at the risk of collapsing. Well, once bitten, twice shy. Anyone who had experienced betrayals in their life, if this emotional wound had not been healed properly, that poison will continue to be projected into their behavior. Well, betrayal is both a description of an emotion and a pain event. You feel betrayed when someone you trusted hurt you. This can happen during childhood, in a love relationship, at work, in business, or even friendship. The deeper you trusted that person, the greater the betrayal hurts. When you encounter a betrayal event, you are first shocked at the disbelief. Then as reality starts sinking in, the waves of sentiment starts to attack one by one. First comes anger, next comes grievance, and once all the dust settles, fear, apathy, disappointment starts getting sealed into the memory. And the consequential toxic behavior brought about by the emotional pain of betrayal is, number one, you stop trusting anymore. I cannot think of anything sadder in life if we cannot trust anymore. If hope is the only thing stronger than fear, then behind every hope, we need trust to make hope happen. Hope might keep us alive, but it is trust that helps us move forward. Trust is basically the backbone of hope. When we no longer trust in anyone, we tend to stay stuck in the same place. You have probably encountered someone at work who never trusts anybody. They tend to do everything themselves, keep important information away from you, and guard you from a distance. Well, it is exhausting and uninspiring to engage with such people because their heart and mind are so tightly shut that nothing progresses. And it is worse when this toxic behavior comes to love. Someone who is still wounded by betrayals will always have a hard time re-entering a healthy relationship. They will always be full of suspicions and expectation for another betrayal to happen. No matter how much they love their partner, they just cannot stop their toxic imagination that he or she is going to cheat and lie to them one day. Now, betrayal does not just make you feel difficult to trust others, but the worst poison it will sink into you is that you can't even trust your own self anymore. And nothing beats the misery of living in a life that you can't even trust and believe in yourself. I mean, if you can't trust yourself, who else can you trust in this world? Now, I'd like you to take a moment and turn inward to check in on yourself. Have you ever experienced betrayals in any form? Do you find it hard to trust anyone around you, especially your own self and your own mind, your own choice? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, my beautiful people, you have to start healing your emotional wound from being betrayed so that you can take back the trust in your life. Well, click on the like button to say yes and send out your positive affirmation that you want your trust back in your life. Wow, so how are you feeling right now? You know, when I was writing this script, I can just feel so much intensity running through my energy. Not only because I have felt this emotional pain in my own pain journey, but also in the hundreds of healing sessions I have worked with my clients. You know, when I recognized how powerful this emotional pain can turn us into a toxic state of being, I thought I really need to produce a video to raise awareness about it so that we can all stay safe from our toxic emotions. So if you're still with me, let's move on to the last part of this video, which I want to show you 2 healing tips that you can prevent your emotional pain from turning into poison. Number 1, tune up your self-awareness. So how do we develop this inner self-awareness where we are able to catch our subconscious thoughts, emotions, and behavior? Well, the most effective way is to learn meditation. You know, meditation really helps us declutter our noisy mind and create space in our heavy heart. When we learn to sit in stillness and silence, we are able to travel inwards into our inner body and inner mind, connecting back to our subconsciousness buried deep within our inner self. Well, meditation is definitely one of the most powerful healing and deep transformational tools that I have acquired during my own pain healing journey. But unfortunately, I see a lot of people fail to connect with this beautiful ancient tool due to the lack of patience or right understanding. Well, it took me a long journey too, to finally resonate with meditation. If you are interested for me to share about my personal journey in meditation, do let me know as well in the comments below, okay? Alright, now the second tip for putting a brake on our toxic emotions is learn to evoke positive emotions. When our dark mood begins to spiral into the rabbit hole, one way to intervene the momentum is by injecting positive emotions. You see, when we are stuck in a negative state of emotion, we cannot just force ourselves to feel positive. It doesn't work by repeatedly saying, oh, I'm not angry, I'm not angry, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. When you do this, you are simply suppressing the toxic emotions even more. A healthier way to approach our toxic emotions is to shift ourselves into a different space instead of getting stuck in it. So building upon our tuned up self-awareness, which is our first tip, whenever we detect our toxic emotions at play, we need to find a way to quickly shift ourselves out of it. But where can we shift ourselves to? Well, this is what I call a safe space. Create for ourselves a safe space to shift into, to stay away from the toxic emotions. And the purpose and power of this safe space is where it will help you evoke positive emotions. Note that I said space and not place, and that means your safe space does not necessarily have to be an amazing, huge physical place to retreat into. Well, here is one simple way to create your safe space right here, right now, and that is think of something that makes you feel good. Well, there are many things that you can visualize to evoke good emotions, and this could be seeing yourself indulging in a passion that you enjoy, such as baking, painting, singing, dancing. But remember, it has to be a passion that uplifts you spiritually and makes you feel purposeful in life. Because sometimes when I say this, my clients will be cheeky to say that, oh, their passion is to get drunk and be merry. Well, remember that such activities are toxic in nature. Well, you can also think of other things that can make you feel good. For example, a person you love, a place that you've been and it makes you feel very safe and relaxed, or maybe your dream house, your dream life. If you need more ideas to help you think of a safe space, you can use the workbook in this video to try out this exercise. So when you feel your toxic emotions are getting out of hand, simply close your eyes, draw a deep, long inhalation, and then visualize that safe space. When you visualize it, feel your positive emotions of joy, peace, love, and happiness coming out of your heart. It even helps if you break into a little smile on your face, okay? And if you want to know how I do my safe space shift, I actually added 2 more steps into this process. So after I close my eyes, I do a countdown to 16, well, because that's my magic number. And as I count down, 16, 15, 14, 13, I visualize myself walking down the stairs. So each step is 1 count. And when I finally reach 1, I chant the mantra, I am that I am. Then I visualize my safe space and simply allow the positive emotions to be evoked. Well, this mantra, I am that I am, is very powerful and is one of my personal favorites. So even though today we are talking about how to prevent ourselves from being toxic, you can also use this mantra to prevent yourself from being affected by toxic people. So whenever I come close to have a conversation or run into someone who is toxic, I chant in my heart, I am that I am, and I imagine myself drawing a circle around me to block off the energy and to not give any permission for that toxic energy to enter my space. So you can try it for yourself and see if it works for you too. I am that I am. To keep yourself in your own space and to prevent other toxic energy from entering your space and disturbing you, okay? So once I do this, I can feel myself shifting out of the toxicity or negativity and come right back into balance. Alright people, if you like this tip and agrees to try out, do click on the like button to shout out your positive affirmation. Alright, beautiful people, we have come to the end of our video. I hope my sharing has further empowered you in your pain journey with some new knowledge, ideas, and healing methods. Remember, pain is necessary, but you can always omit the suffering. And now I'd like to hear from you, your thoughts about the toxic emotional pain and healing tips that I have shared. Or if you have a pain story to share and inspire this community, do write them in the comments below, okay? And if you have any questions to ask me or a topic you'd like me to talk about, also leave it in the comments with #AskSylvia. So stay tuned to my channel, Heal with Sylvia, by subscribing to the channel, or head over to my website now to find out more about my healing therapy and program. Alright, beautiful people, thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you again very soon. Love and light to you, always.